Welcome to Kutch time. Today is March 28th, 2026, and the Detroit Pistons just beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 109 to 87, moving to 54 and 20 on the NBA season. In a game that saw both teams missing their superstars in Cade Cunningham and Anthony Edwards, Detroit was able to get the win over Minnesota, despite having 19 turnovers, with 6 Detroit players having multiple turnovers in the game. Obviously, it's a 20-plus point win. There's a lot to like. Tobias Harris had 18 points, and he tied his season high of 3 blocks. He came out hot. He had 11 points, 4 for shooting, 2 for 2 from three, and a I think a free throw. Um, Very nice start from him. He kind of cooled off, but I still think he finished 7 for 10. So starts 4 for 4, finishes the rest of the game 3 for 6. Nice game for him overall. Can't really ask much more for Uncle T, because he's been so consistent as of late. Even though at the beginning he was kind of struggling a little bit, but not no more. Danish Jenkins had an interesting night. He kind of started off really, really bad. I believe he started off like 1 for 8 or something, and he finishes about I think 6 for 16, which isn't amazing, but it's a lot better than 1 for 8. He has 13 points and ties his career high of 8 rebounds. I mean, he had 7 rebounds for a while, so he definitely could have beat that career high mark. Just wasn't able to get a couple more rebounds and potentially a double double with rebounds and points. But hey, he was running the ball a lot, forcing the ball a lot, which is kind of what caused him to have some missed field goals. He also had some turnovers tonight, which I'll get into a little bit. But nice night overall, but definitely some holes early on into the game. Ron Holland's a guy I just want to give a shout out to, since he's not a guy I'm really able to too much, because he doesn't really have a huge role at this moment, even despite the injuries, just because there's no really injuries to forwards right now. He has 13 points. He has 2 steals. He has 2 blocks. He goes 2 for 4 from three. Nice overall game from him, and he missed his first 2 threes. One was an open corner three, and one was a step back corner three, which I was very surprised of him taking, and he missed that one. And then I think he got benched for that for a little bit, deservedly so. Then he makes his next 2. Both the first one was a big momentum pusher, into pushing the Pistons into pretty much closing up the game. Same with the second one, but just later on. Ron Holland's a player that, yes, he's super raw still. He's a young player. He's in his second year. He's raw, and that's what the Pistons knew getting into him, drafting him 5th overall, two drafts ago. His 3 point shot isn't there yet. It's not at its peak. It's not what you want it to be. I think he's still shooting probably like 22%. After the night, maybe he's 23%. I have no idea. But you see it being worked on, and that's just a light. That's a light shining bright on him, because you know he's good at defense. You know he can hustle. You know he can finish, despite sometimes having poor decision making or just kind of rushing it. His playmaking is not the best, but that is what it is. His drive's insane though. Insane drive for him. But the 3 point is really what's holding him back from a real player in this league to just Ron right now. But he never stops. He doesn't stop shooting, obviously. But he never stops. When he knows he's open enough, he's not never gonna not take it. That's the difference between him and Sar. Obviously, a Sar is leagues better offensively, leagues better finisher, leagues better playmaker. But from a 3 point aspect, Asar isn't really shooting those threes. Ron is at least attempting them. And it's just nice to see, especially on games like tonight, where it's a 20 point victory and you can give him a little bit more leeway in attempting those. And if Ron can even become a low to mid 30% 3 point shooter with maybe a bit heightened from a corner, his game will grow so much. And because he has so much potential, it's just on the Pistons team right now, it's hard to show it because they aren't competitive, but Ron Holland has the tools to be a very good NBA player. Paul Reed also has 12 points, 7 rebounds. He played almost 20 minutes, a bit more than probably was expected. Jalen Duren had some foul trouble throughout the game. He had two fouls in the first like 3.5 minutes, and then picked up his fourth with still time left in the third. Kevin Huerter had 11 points. Could have definitely had more. He came out hot. He started the game 3 for 4, had 7 points off the bench in the first 5 minutes of the game. He finished the first quarter with 3 for 5, but he started 3 for 4. Then he kind of slowed down. I think he only finishes 5 for 11. Jalen Duren, again, foul trouble, doesn't play maybe as much as expected, but still has 10 points, still has 13 rebounds, and carries over that playmaking pitch he had last game where he tied his career high. He has 5 assists tonight. Very good game from overall, despite the foul trouble, despite less minutes than probably expected. Doug Robinson also had 10 points, and I got to give a star a shout out. He only had 6 points. He had 6 rebounds, but he also had 4 steals. I mean, a star's a star. That's just kind of the stat lines he'll have every once in a while. Maybe not so much points, but we'll still have the rebounds and we'll still have the defensive stats because that's just the kind of player he is. The one bad I want to focus on for a little bit more than usual, 19 turnovers tonight. Ron had 4, Danish Jenkins and Jalen Duren had 3, and then Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert, Kevin Huerter had 2. This was the biggest game I've seen since the Cade injury where you miss Cade. And the Pistons lost again. The Pistons lost against Hawks. But today was the first game you really saw what Cade does for this team. Not just from a scoring end, not just from a defensive end. It was from a pace end. It felt like, obviously the Pistons won this by 22. But it was a close game until the fourth quarter, basically. I mean, Pistons were up double digits for a decent amount, but Timberwolves were always one step from making it back into a very, very close game. And it's just because the Pistons kept having turnovers. And it wasn't, I mean, they would get the stop and then they would just rush down the court and it would be, what do I have to do now? What do I have to do now? They're not pacing themselves. They're not pacing the offense. There's a decision making, and it caused many, many turnovers, back-to-back turnovers from multiple players. And that's something Cade is great on. Cade is great of controlling the pace, saying, hey, we don't need to push the ball. We don't need to sprint down the court if it's not there. Every single time, you can take the ball and hold it. You can take the ball and slow down the offense. Try to work for better shot attempts. Not try to force everything. Not try to force every pass you can. Because a night like tonight, 19 turnovers, against a good team Timberwolves are a good team. Not saying that, but against a healthy Timberwolves team, 19 turnovers would not cut it. And they also had 14 turnovers, but again, they also had injuries. They were missing Ant. They were missing Jaden McDaniels. They were just missing Ayo Dosunmu. They had injuries to key players, like the Pistons does. But this, the pace of this game was well different than it has been in these non-Cade games. I feel like Danish Jenkins has been able to control the pace a decent amount, but today he kind of just took off in the first half and part of the third quarter. He controlled it near the end, but it's just like every time he got the ball in the other side of the court, he would just sprint down, and it would cause the other players to overreact, the other players on the offense to overreact. And just kind of rushing everything to try to get a bucket, and it didn't work. Obviously, it just did not work until the Pistons finally figured out, hey, we have to slow it down. And at that point, offense became better, which led to better defense, which then led to better offense. Next game is a Monday. It's against the Thunder. I mean, it's going to be easily the hardest game in this stretch of games without Cade. It'll be a much different Thunder team than the Pistons saw last time. Last time Pistons saw them, the Thunder didn't play basically their entire starting lineup, and the Pistons had Cade. Stewart was suspended for that game, so being without Stewart will remain the same. But I mean, it will be very hard, and I'll be very surprised if the Pistons are able to win this one. It's a very hard week for the Pistons in general. They have the Thunder, and it's a back-to-back night. They have to go versus the Raptors, and then you have the Timberwolves with Ant most likely has a better chance of playing that game. I would say probably likely to play that game. So likely to see some losses this week, maybe multiple. Definitely the toughest week the Pistons have left, especially without Cade. Even going to be harder. than it should have been. But hopefully, despite all that, the Pistons are still able to get this win, and we'll see if they can. Thank you.